It's Miss Walter. I wanted to make this lesson about our graphic novel unit. So if you go into your classroom, you're going to see today's post. We were going to do a Zoom, but that's not going to work out today, so I'm making this video. I want to talk you through a couple things, and then I'm going to introduce the new novel, and then you guys are going to get started reading. So pause the video anytime you want to, and if you need to go get your notebook or a pen or a pencil, then you can go do that. I don't even know if you have your notebooks with you, but you can pause the video at any time. Okay, so I'm in classroom. I'm on today's post, which is graphic novel unit. I'm going to open up the first PDF, which is our Opposite Land, all about graphic novels. It's not opening for me. Here we go. Okay, so what you see here is just some instructions and some terminology for graphic novels. So graphic novels, I don't know if you've read them before, but they're pretty awesome, and they are definitely a genre that is becoming increasingly popular and increasingly mainstream. And what I mean by that is comic books and graphic novels and anime, they were sort of fringe type of genres, meaning that they weren't as popular or as accepted by people in academia or in the establishment as being like legitimate sources of literature, but that's really been changing, which is kind of exciting. And more artists are joining with writers to make these and to tell some really, really important stories. So I'm excited to share these with you. I'm just going to talk to you about what we see here on this page. What we see here is a page, obviously, of a book. And there's some terms that I want to talk you through. Up at the top left corner, you see layout, and that is how the page is literally laid out. Different graphic novels have different styles. Some will have a large frame, as you see the very top with a girl who's wearing the jacket and the shorts and the fish-looking thing that's flying in the air. That frame is large. Underneath that, as we read from the top to the next page, the next part, there's smaller frames. There's a fish with like a butterfly. There is a frame that says "To where I'm from, planet Earth," and then you can see the next underneath where someone is laughing. These fish type things with wings. There is no frame in that panel, so you can see that artists and writers, they vary the way that they break down a page and that they progress the ideas from one panel to the next. Okay, I want to talk to you about that word gutter. So the gutter is the empty space in between each frame. And now the gutter seems like it's just spacing, but it's really not. That gutter creates meaning because it is controlling the time in the text. So the gutter is so important, and you might not think it's that important, but as we read and as we pay attention to the different elements of the graphic novel, you may notice the gutter helps to create meaning by speeding up time or making time slow down, and you can notice that while you're working. You see a speech bubble and you see the thought bubble. They're different. The thought bubble has the clouds shaped bubbles going up to the idea, and so that's a moment that an author can use to create inner thinking, where in a novel that you might read, someone who's expressing inner thinking might narrate, if it's in first person, narrate and say, "I'm thinking to myself, he must be crazy." Or if it's a third person narrator, the narrator might write, John thought to himself that he wouldn't. And that's the way a graphic novelist will let us know the inner thinking of a character as opposed to just speech. So that was a lot to say. If you want to pause that or rewind that, you're more than welcome to do that. I also want to draw your attention to the close-up arrow at the right-hand bottom part of the screen. It says close-up with an arrow to the girl. Now that is an adaptation from the film genre, where the director will make emphasis by taking their camera and bringing it closer to the action. Not every shot is a close-up, but think about movies that you know. Artists, directors use the close-up when they want to emphasize something, when they want to bring our attention to something that's special, whether it's a reaction on their face, whether it's a detail, whether it's something that the character isn't noticing, but the director wants us to notice that. So what's exciting, at least in my mind, about graphic novels is that it's a blend of these two different genres of film and of literature coming together as one, which is pretty cool too. And like I said, anytime this is too long, just take a break, and you're more than welcome to come back to this when you're ready. All right, so here's some graphic novel terms I'd like you to take a look at. And I'm not going to read them to you because I know you know how to read, but I would really like you to read these. And these will be terms that I definitely want you to know, and I'll be using when I talk about different elements or I teach different lessons. So I might be drawing your attention to a speech bubble, and I would want you to be able to tell me what a speech bubble was, or even the caption, the layout, but it's very self-explanatory. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring us to our annotation categories for graphic novels, and then I'll introduce the book to us. All right, so I'm going to X out of this, and I'm going to go back into our graphic novel annotation categories. Okay, so here we are. So these are in addition to the categories we've already done in class. So if you remember in class, we started with characterization, we did shifts in tone, we did author's purpose, we did author's craft, we did something else, but I can't quite remember it right now. And it brings us to Roman numeral 6. So when you're reading your graphic novels, I'm going to ask you to do an annotation once every other chapter. Okay, so you don't need to create an annotation every other chapter. Of course, I want you reading and thinking and noticing, but the annotations I want you to do just once every other chapter, okay? So if you decide to do text feature creates meaning, when you're paying attention to something in that text and using those words, those terms that we just used, the panels, did you notice that something added and created meaning in the text? If you find that, then annotate. I wrote underneath our Roman numeral 6, using the list in the graphic novel, how does a specific text feature create meaning in the moment or in the novel? How does the text feature connect to other literary elements you know, including foreshadowing, flashback, irony, metaphor, characterization, author's purpose, conflict, and etc., right? You know so many different things. I'm going to show you a sample of that in just a bit. And the next annotation category we have is Google it. And this is something that where we in the classroom, I would tell you that we're going to use this all year for all of our texts. And I use this as a reader myself all the time. When I find something that I don't know, I Google it. Simple as that. Whether it's a geographic place, a specific name, like a person's name that you think that might be a real person. Maybe it's this interesting food that they're discussing. Maybe it's just something that you're not sure about. Google it, and it's probably a real thing, and then you'll learn what that thing is. So if you create a Google it annotation, you're going to explain what it is that you learned and why it matters. You know, so the writer chose to put that name, that place, that thing in the text for a reason, and it's got to bring meaning to the text. So that's your job as a thinker to start to think about, okay, why are they doing that? Okay, that's what your annotations will look like, and I have a page of blank annotations to share with you. And it looks, just the same as it did before. You put the name of the title at the top, the category at the top, then you create a title, but I would leave that blank until I finished writing the whole annotation. The page number, the panel number, you'll insert an image, and I'll show you this in a moment, so this won't be confusing at all, and then your theory, okay? All right, so I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to create another one in a moment, starting with the graphic novel itself, so you have, you know, the video isn't too long. All right, so I'm going to pause right now and I'll see you guys in a bit.